Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Sorry I haven't posted in a while, but I was gone to Guatemala and Belize, experiencing unbelievable things in the jungle and on the beach. I was able to see the Tikal ruins. That was one of the highlights of my trip. Um, Unbelievable experience. But sorry I haven't posted in a while, but I just one of the reasons getting down there was great was to escape the cold clutches of the Albertan winters we have up here in Canada. But having said all that, I'm back. I've been wrestling with a few ideas, uh, going over some in-depth perceptions. Keep that phrase in mind, but some in-depth perceptions uh, about something I want to discuss, which is how perceptions shape reality. And I think this is a topic that's probably not discussed near enough. I know it's discussed in some areas of the, let's say, the alternative community, but probably not enough as it should be. I think we can come at this question or this subject from two different points of view. The first I'm going to deal with is our own perceptions, our self-perceptions, because I think this is the most important and most critical um, points to talk about, which is the perceptions of ourself. And first we need to define what is a perception or what shapes a perception. And when you really break it down and you look at things from this angle, all a perception is information received and decoded or computed, however, whatever metaphor you'd like to use. It's information coming from the sensory parts of our body, and I think most people would agree that we definitely have five, and some can be in tune to more than that. The sixth sense, as some people like to call it. But information comes in, it's decoded or processed, however you want to look at it, and then we project what that information we've received onto the world. Now, for some people, this starts getting into areas where it's considered esoteric and maybe new age nonsense, but it's a really simple idea, which is your thoughts are a physical thing, and if they are a physical thing, a wave, an energy force that goes out into the universe, goes out into the daily world. If that is an actual physical thing and it goes out and returns, goes out and interacts and returns, I would say through the ether, through this dielectric medium, which is throughout all space. So it's going out there, interacting, and coming back. So it's possible that your perceptions may affect the world that you live in, the one that's closest to you, your immediate world, the world that you see every day, the people that you see, et cetera, et cetera. This is very important because many people, or some people, or there's definitely a large majority of people living in our society, in our Western society, if not throughout the world, that suffer from anxiety, that suffer from depression, that suffer from a whole host of what we would call mental illnesses. And I wouldn't call them mental illnesses. I would call them bad perceptions of themselves or bad perceptions of the world. And not all of them are, I'm not saying that to make light of what someone may be suffering. To the contrary, I think it's more important to understand what causes these perceptions or what causes these, let's say, a negative feedback loop where you think your life is terrible, you think that you might be a victim, that things are unfair. If that's your perception of reality and that's the perception of yourself, and your thought is a physical thing, and that's what you constantly think, and that's what you constantly put out into the world, how do you expect that not to come back on yourself and to manifest throughout your everyday reality? This is very important because I think as you go deeper down the psychological rabbit hole, and from my research down some different paths of scientific community, who would argue logically that this is how the nature of reality is set up and it works. And I can tend to concur with those groups of people. But even if you don't want to take this necessarily literally, maybe more esoterically, it does make sense that that could potentially affect you, even if you think that your perceptions are perfect and your perception uh, doesn't matter. It's someone else's fault. It's the circumstances that you're in that you may not be successful. You may not uh, want something that you desperately need. Not that it might not be even a material thing. It might be something that you actually need. But we have to, I think, really look at the way our perceptions could affect the circumstances that we're in. Excuse me one sec. Because if we're going to truly raise awareness and truly raise consciousness as individuals, but as a collective whole, I think this is probably one of the main things that people should be working on. I even read in comment sections and things that are very disheartening, that the world is the way that it is and nothing can change and everything's shit, blah 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 blah. And that is one perception. It absolutely is. Like, it's hard to not look at a perception or perspective and give some merit to it, because we don't want to lie to ourselves. But if we're constantly focused on the negativity, if we're constantly focused on the shit, if we're constantly focused on what the mainstream media wants you to focus on, which is usually death, destruction, and war, then it's hard to try and manifest that light in your own life. It requires moving beyond that. It requires a lot more things too than just that, but at one level, that's essentially what people have to do, is move beyond what the mainstream media is feeding us every single day. Let it not necessarily affect our perceptions. And if we do find it affecting our perceptions in a negative way, maybe we have to adjust accordingly, because I don't feel it necessary to let information, which is then processed, which is then projected onto the rest of the world. So I don't want that information to affect me in a way which changes my perception of things or causes me to have, let's say, a bad mood. We want to project and then receive and manifest love, light, energy, honor, respect, all those wonderful things. And we want to block out the detractors, the doubters, the negative energy suckers, who are parasites and who can feed off that kind of energy. So that is essentially my point in kind of changing our perceptions. And at a personal level, I'm trying to do that every single day. But I see how, and again, when you start diving deep into the human psychologist, you can see why the mainstream media and the powers that shouldn't be, call them what you will, use mass media to control perception. And this is actually what I wanted to talk into. I wanted to relate into, on a massive scale, mass perception of someone, of an idea, of things, how that's manipulated by the mainstream media, and how easily it is to manufacture a perception. We know the mainstream media lies and spins, but it really is, I like to call it perception management. And we look at, I'm still going to use this as the glaring example of perception management, which was the 2016 Donald Trump selection, fake wrestling match with Hillary Clinton, which got really tiresome after a while, actually. But think about exactly what the mainstream media was able to pull over on the population by using perception management. We're gonna bring in somebody who we're gonna shape and mold into being the outsider. We're gonna attack them from both sides, the left and right. We're gonna make sure the political establishment really creates the perception of he's a threat, he's a danger to the status quo. He's gonna shake things up. There's gonna be a change, and then gets in office, boom, 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 back to business as usual. But people were locked into that perception through propaganda, through the media, through the entire selection cycle. They were locked into that perception. They believed it. People propagated it that probably shouldn't have been propagating it. I don't need to name any names. but they believed it. And then when the truth comes out and people who are watching what he's actually doing, the people that actually voted him in are still locked into that same perception of this guy's anti-establishment. And most people don't want to admit when they've been conned, but now that's their perception of the whole thing. He's shaking things up. He's anti-establishment, and it's hard to get people out of their perceptions, even if information flies right in contrary of that certain perception. There's many different perceptions that can be right, that can shed new light into a situation. But for the purpose of this video, I think an overall good example, a clear illustration, in my opinion and my estimation, is that the PSYOP, which was Donald Trump, changed people's perception of the system. It changed people's perception of, okay, an outsider can actually come in, shake things up. Look at both sides who hate him. It's relentless torrents of vitriolic hatred towards the man. It would make you think that there's something going on here. But Americans have professional wrestling, and all you got to do is look at that. People cheer and scream and yell for something that they know is fake, something that they know isn't real. It's the same as politics. It saddens me to say. They know deep down it's fake and it's staged and it's not real. But the show is so good sometimes. And look, they got Stormy Daniels, they got immigration and Mexicans and people from Guatemala and Honduras pouring over. Let's polarize that. Oh, that's good to watch. More gun control and more shootings. Let's polarize that, and everyone's going to fixate and watch that. And perceptions. There's multiple perceptions being juggled. So that's basically what I wanted to get across in this video, is how perceptions shape reality. Because our own perceptions, created by information, processing, and then projecting it out into the world, I do believe can affect our reality. I think a lot of people would agree with that. Mainstream science says your thoughts can't affect your outside reality because your thoughts are trapped in your head. I would have to wholeheartedly disagree with that. Say that our thoughts are projections onto the world, and it travels. It's an electromagnetic wave. It travels through the dielectric ether. This is me logically trying to explain it, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you can logically explain this or not. It's, to be honest, a belief system. If you believe your perceptions can shape reality, I choose that they do, and I'm just kind of giving you a background of why I choose that they do. But I think again, your thoughts travel through this dielectric medium, which permeates all space, interacts with things, and then comes back. You're open to new information, new ideas come in when you're open to this way of thinking. So that's why we have to be very careful about being manipulated by mass perception and mass deception, because we can create feedback loops, which is what we've done by continuing to vote in from either the left hand of the equation, the right hand of the equation. We have this perception that this is the way that things should and only could work. But when people remove fear and remove doubt and remove all the barriers of things that hold people back and deter things, fear is the number one. That's why they use so much of it. Is fear and keeping people in these mindsets. They're little, that they need the government to take care of them, that how could we build the roads? Are you insane? So we have this feedback loop of always having to go back to voting left or right for the same slave master. And I'm hoping this video will reach people on a deeper level and try and kind of shake them up and maybe hopefully it can change their perceptions in some sort of positive way, because we all need work on our perceptions. And I think that's a good message to send to anybody, which is why the last point of this video I want to make is this is kind of like my opening video for changing the name of the YouTube channel, or actually coming up with a real name, because I've had it for my name for a while, just Nathan Riva, and it's taken me a while to really think about what exactly I'm doing with this channel and where I want to go with it. And I enjoy talking about in-depth topics and how they relate to bigger things, not just geopolitics, but usually how it relates to ourselves. So I have a lot of things I want to discuss, a lot of people I want to get on the channel and discuss them with, and I'm going to be working on that as I progress forward and as things in my own life shape up, because I've been quite busy. But I won't be somebody who's going to be on here, you know, every couple days. But the stuff that I put out, I really want it to be quality. So having said all that, the new name of the YouTube channel will be called In-Depth Perceptions. Um, that's where I want to go with this. I hope if you guys found this video insightful or something you took something out of it of use, please share it. Please subscribe to the channel. I don't really promote myself that much, and I really won't. But for videos that I think that really need to be shared and really need people to hear, I'll give a little promotion at the end. But yeah, if you would be so kindly to share and like the video, subscribe. There will be more videos to come. There will be more in-depth topics that will be discussed. And I would like to get a host of people on to have conversations with, because at the end of the day, conversations is what keeps the ball rolling forward, especially if we're having healthy ones. More ideas discussed, more ways of looking at the world, more solutions can come about that way. So thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Take care.